Welcome everyone to our second Konnech release video. I'm Barbara, and together with Jacob we will take you through some of the exciting updates from our March release. And like always, we will be focusing in how these improvements enhance your quantity workflows and of course the overall efficiency. Maybe you saw them already, because when you open Konnech, you'll see this What's New dialog, and it shows you the three main features, which in this case are the redesigned Help Center, a new Deep Inspect mode, and some upgrades to the Measure tool. For those who don't know the Inspect panel, it shows you all the properties of the entity that you currently have selected, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let me go through these new features in this latest Konnech release one by one. So I'll start with this Deep Inspect mode, which indeed shows you the properties of the currently selected object. So let me select a slab here, put it in scope, and I'll open the Inspect panel to show you that it basically gives you all the properties and attributes that are related to this slab here. Now we have extended the Inspect panel to now also support what we call sub-entities, so meaning faces, edges, and bodies of products. So for example, let me start the Deep Select mode, which allows me to select these sub-entities. And let me select this face here, for instance. If I now open the Inspect panel, you'll see indeed that it shows properties and quantities of this selected face. So I can see this surface has a total area of 0.88 square meters, and it's a planar surface. If I select some other entities or sub-entities, for instance, some cylindrical faces and so on, you can see that the total area of the selected faces is shown, as well as the surface type of each selected face. This also goes for edges. For instance, let me select some edges here, maybe a circular edge as well. Again, showing me, in this case, the length of the edge and the type of edges.
Okay, and it works also for slabs. So for instance, what's the area of the entire slab?
Yeah, so I can indeed, for example, take the upper face of this slab here, just select it, and it shows me this 856 square meters for this entire slab.
Okay, great. And if you want to do some more advanced stuff in terms of quantity calculation, we have the Measure tool, which has been upgraded to include the custom areas and the custom values.
Yeah, exactly. So let me open the Measure tool. So in the previous releases of Konnech, we already had a net area and gross area calculation. So to give you a recap, net area basically allows you to calculate the area of an object, taking into account all the openings. So all of the openings that you have in a slab are, in this case, cut out, which gives me an area of 856 square meters. It's pretty much the same area as we saw before when using the Deep Inspect mode. Opposed to this net area is then the gross area, which basically ignores all openings and features, and in this case would just give you a simple rectangle with an area of 994 square meters. Now, what if you want to do a slightly more refined calculation? For instance, I want to know the area of this slab, but I want to ignore certain openings, for example, these smaller openings. Because maybe I want to drill those openings into the slab later rather than cast them in place. So this is where the custom area calculation comes in. So you can choose to ignore voids smaller than a certain area. So for instance, 0.5 square meters. Hit calculate. And in this case, it gives me an area of 862 square meters. And as you can see here, all of these smaller openings here are ignored. So the calculation actually ignores these smaller openings. If I want to ignore slightly smaller openings, so you can basically fine-tune this a bit until you have what you need. Or depending on the standards that you use, make sure you have the correct calculation method. The same goes basically for custom volumes, so net volume, gross volume, and custom volume. It's the same exact approach. So I can choose to calculate the volume of this slab with ignoring voids smaller than 0.5 square meters, for instance, which in this case gives me an area or a volume, of 224 cubic meters.
Okay, and we also have the surface area. Where can we use this for?
Yeah, so we've added a surface area calculator, which can be useful, for instance, if you want to know the surface area of, let's say, a beam, to know how much paint you will need to use to paint over this entire beam. So I will focus on this one beam to give you a clear example of what this surface area does. So let me measure the surface area of this beam here without playing with the settings, and I get a total area of 41.67 square meters. As you can see here, there's a couple of options and settings I can play with. Basically, you can choose to measure what we call main faces, feature faces, and other faces, which is kind of a rest category. Main faces in this case would be all of the side and top faces and bottom faces of the slab, but ignoring the outer end. So maybe let me show this a bit more clearly by just showing you the other faces. Would basically show us the net area of this end face and the other end face here. Feature faces is about opening faces. So features is basically a sort of umbrella term to talk about openings, recesses, and other kinds of features in the object. So for example, if I would only measure the feature faces here, you will see that all of these openings and these little smaller features are counted. So you can easily distinguish between these different kinds of faces. Again, there's an option to ignore voids. So for instance, I want to know the surface area of this beam, but while ignoring all of these small openings. So I can choose to say, okay, I want to ignore openings smaller than 0.1 square meters. And let me just select all the faces here. This will basically give me the entire surface area of this beam, including the end faces, while ignoring the openings of this beam. So again, really customizable, and it allows you to quickly calculate surface areas of objects, including certain openings and features. Note that these features are actually calculated on the fly, so they're not defined as opening elements in your model. They're actually just defined on the fly by Conic, so you can have a model coming in from anywhere with these little features and openings in them, and Conic will detect them correctly as features.
Great. Next, let's talk about reporting. We've improved the report panel with two key updates. First, the itemized rows, which allows you to see each element with its individual quantity. And second, the not filters.
Yeah, indeed. So I've opened the report panel here. And as you mentioned, the first improvement that we added in this feature was the ability to itemize your rows. So what I mean by that is within each row, you can actually see each individual object as a part of this row. So for instance, if I open these concrete beams here, the total net volume of concrete beams of C2530 is 7.61 cubic meters. That's for all of these beams combined, but you can now actually individually for each beam part of this category see their quantity and select them individually. So that makes it easier to identify specific objects in your report instead of just seeing everything as a group. The other new feature we added to the report panel and also to the browse panel actually is the not filter. So you can add groups and filters on properties in your model. But now we've also added the ability to inverse filter. So for example, let's say I'm not interested in the piles and footings in this list because that's for a different subcontractor, for instance. So I want to ignore all piles and footings. So I'll add a filter, an inverse filter or not filter for footings and piles, which will make sure they don't show up in the report anymore. Maybe I'm also not interested in all the steel objects, so I will also add a inverse filter for steel materials. like this. And this will basically now only give me all the concrete beams, columns, walls, and slabs.
Okay, so instead of manually sorting through data, you can now get the relevant insights with just a few filters.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the final major thing that was improved in this latest version of Konnech is the redesigned Help Center. So what I mean by that is this little question mark icon on the bottom left of the screen now gives you a couple of options to contact us or to go to the Help Center. So as you can see here at the top, the uppermost option is just an option to talk to us. So it will give you the ability to send us a message with a subject and a message. Just a really simple way to reach out to us without needing to open your mailbox or contact support directly. So just really easy to reach out to us. The second option is the option to book a demo. So if I would click this button, it basically opens a sort of calendar date picker just to book a one-on-one with us, just a 30-minute meeting, so we can give you a brief overview of what Konnech is about or answer some questions you might have. There's also an issue reporting button. Basically, if you run into an issue, if some feature doesn't work as expected or you get a crash or something, you can manually reach out to us using this button with the question or the description of what goes wrong, maybe add a screenshot, and we will also get some basic analytics, like for example your operating system or browser that you're using, so we can more easily try to reproduce the issue and come with a fix as soon as possible. Then there's also a button to the Help Center, which opens your browser with our latest Help Center. And finally, there's also a button to our community, where you can find forums about topics, where you can post feature requests, find the latest release notes, and so on.
Indeed, because we know how important it is to find answers quickly while you're working, so this redesign helps you to find solutions without disruptions. Okay, that wraps up our highlights for today. We hope you're as excited as we are about these new updates. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll answer them quickly. And of course, if you'd like to try these new updates yourself, log into konnech.com and start exploring. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you in the next Konnech video.